The FlareForce inline flaring tool is a revolutionary new way to create tube flares. Its patented design changes the way professional mechanics perform fluid transfer repairs, including brake, fuel, and transmission systems. No other tube flaring product is as fast, easy to use, and as versatile as the FlareForce. Create perfect tube flares for brake, fuel, and transmission lines in seconds. Are you tired of having to make your flares on the bench? Make flares right on the vehicle with FlareForce. Have you had it with lengthy and time-consuming flaring procedures? Create flares in seconds with FlareForce. Are complicated setup instructions for different diameters and flare types taking too much of your time? Setup is easy and quick with FlareForce. Are you getting flares that leak half the time? You'll get quality leak-proof flares every time with FlareForce.
Replacing fluid transfer lines is a time-consuming, yet vitally important part of many automotive repairs. The quickest and most cost-effective way to replace a bad and/or leaking line is to bend and form a new line from bulk 25-foot or 50-foot rolls. This requires flaring of the ends of each line and can prove to be time-intensive, as the line must first be fitted and formed underneath the vehicle, then brought to the bench to perform the flares, and finally brought back to the vehicle to be installed. The FlareForce simplifies and speeds up this process by allowing the mechanic to perform the flaring process quickly and right on the vehicle. The FlareForce patented design is a true revolution. FlareForce performs flares on the vehicle. FlareForce creates flares in seconds. FlareForce setup is quick and easy. FlareForce creates flares mechanics can trust every time. FlareForce does it all. Creates 3 OE style flares: single, double or inverted flares, and bubble or ISO flares. Works on steel lines, polyarmor coated lines, and NiCop nickel copper lines. It handles 3/16, 1/4 inch, 6 mm, 5/16, and 3/8 diameters. Setup of the FlareForce to create a double inverted flare on 3/16 tubing is this easy. To load the chuck, remove the retainer nut on the front of the chuck by rotating counterclockwise. Place the 3/16 jaws into the correct jaw holder, making sure the springs are properly positioned. Squeezing rear end of jaws together to hold spring tension, place taper ring over the jaws and jaw holder. Slide completed jaw assembly into chuck housing and lock down by rotating retainer nut clockwise. To load the end forming dies, place the 3/16 dies into the slide mechanism, being careful to place them in the correct order and orientation. Slide the plastic loader onto the slide mechanism to hold the dies in place. Hold down die slide mechanism retainer while inserting into left side of the tool. Plastic loader will be pushed out as the slide mechanism locks into position. That's it. You're now ready to create single, double, or bubble flares on any 3/16 line. If you need to work with a different diameter tube, simply follow the same procedure to load the correct jaw assembly and dies for that size tube. Performing a flare on the end of an already installed replacement line takes just seconds after the line has been properly sized, bent to fit, squared, and fitted with the proper tube nut. Make sure you have an air supply plugged into the FlareForce. Shop air hose is ideal for this, but an air tank can be used for portability. Make sure the die slide mechanism is in place by pushing from right side all the way to the left position. Slide should protrude from the left side of the tool, as shown before flaring process is started. Place activation switch in the open position. Depress trigger, and then while trigger is still being depressed, push up on the chuck release lever until chuck is fully released. You should hear air pressure release and the mechanical sound of the chuck opening. Guide the cut tubing end into the FlareForce chuck until it fits over the pintle on the forming die and hits the stop. The end of the line must be fully seated and bottomed out against the die for proper function. With end of the line seated against the die and centered in the chuck, place activation switch in the lock position. Hold down the trigger for 2 seconds to perform first part of the flaring operation. Release trigger and push die slide mechanism from left side all the way to the right position. Slide should protrude from the right side of the tool as shown before second part of flaring process is started. Hold down the trigger for 2 seconds to perform the second part of flaring operation. Place activation switch in the open position and carefully remove line from the chuck. You now have a completed double inverted 45-degree flare, ready for assembly. Leak-proof and trouble-free. The FlareForce is the next generation of flaring tools. Performs flares in seconds right on the vehicle. Perform jobs quicker and take the hassle and uncertainty out of tube flaring. Get the FlareForce now and experience the revolution.